Well, friends, we got some insider info on the brand new Sonic Rangers, and it's starting to sound a little bit like a game that we know of and, well, we know. Let's discuss right now. Hello there, beautiful human. My name is RidersDX. Welcome to my channel, where today we're finally going to be talking about Sonic Rangers again, or I should say working title, because it's starting to look like this is not going to be the actual title of the game. But anyway, we're talking about it today because, well, we have had some leaks here and there about the game and like some information about it that could have been interesting to talk about, but we got someone that just posted a video who allegedly knows a quality tester that was able to try out Sonic Rangers. And this is a member of the community, you know, they work for Tails channel and such, and so it's someone that I personally believe is reputable, and it also has a lot of info that makes a lot of sense in terms of like previous leaks we've seen and like things I just would say are reasonable for Sonic Rangers. Now, none of this is confirmed, so, you know, take it all with a grain of salt. But if you all want the download on everything that he talks about, check out Daki's video if you want all the straight information on the game, because this is not the video for that. What we are going to talk about in this video is one of the factoids that he mentioned that I just found to be really interesting. And believe me, there's a lot of stuff here that's really interesting, but the reason that I wanted to pick out this point in particular was because it kind of harps on like a debate within the Sonic franchise that I think we've all been a part of at some point, and that is the visual aesthetics and just the overall tone of Sonic game. In other words, the pretty pictures. First of all, the quality testers said that the game looked absolutely amazing, that it sported a world that's definitely as big as Breath of the Wild, and man, that's definitely something I want to talk about later on. But one thing that they said that was really interesting to me was the fact that the game gave a lot of Sonic 06 vibes. And so what does he mean by this? What he means is that it basically sees Sonic being placed in a more realistic environment that, through his words, he doesn't quite fit in. Although he also did mention that there were enemies that mimic the Dark Gaia monsters in Unleashed as well, and so there seems to be some bit of mix and matching of previous Sonic games here, which is pretty cool. Now, I have to say, before you all get all panicky and all that, I do have to harp on the word visually. We're talking about only visuals in this case, so this is nothing that's indicative of the gameplay itself. We'll probably talk about the gameplay another time, but I really wanted to focus on the art direction because it looks like this game is going to be taking an art direction that's pretty much the opposite of all the Sonic games we've gotten in the past decade. I mean, from Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, Sonic Lost World especially, and even Sonic Forces, you know, they all sport these like fantastical environments that were really reminiscent of the Genesis era and all that. We even had games like Sonic Mania that really harped on that. So to go back to an aesthetic that's a little bit more similar to Sonic 06 is interesting to say the least. And so in my personal opinion, I think it's nice to see a Sonic game take a direction that's more similar towards the adventure titles in 06, just because I really do think that we've had that aesthetic with like the previous games in the past 10 years for so long that I am kind of tired of it, and it's just not as exciting anymore to see Sonic in all those locations. And so it would be an interesting change of pace to have Sonic back in like more realistic environments and like interacting with a world that's a little bit more similar to ours. Sure, there could be some arguments that like this aesthetic is a little bit more boring and it really doesn't offer as much in terms of diversity and really taking advantage of Sonic as a character, but I really think that 06 left such a stain on this aesthetic that it really does overshadow a lot of the potential that it has. And so one thing I could talk about is like the adventure games. And so I think Sonic was implemented very well into those games where the world was a little bit more realistic and Sonic had to adapt to like a more human populated world. And I thought it was really cool because it kind of reminded me of like a cartoony Spider-Man, you know? Sonic is like this hero that everyone loves and all these kind of kids and humans get to look up to, and Sonic just kind of goes around the world, you know, just doing his thing and saving the world. And it's just like, I think there's just something really appealing about that kind of setup where you're like a normal kid or like a normal adult in the human world, and then you have this like icon that you can look up to that saves the world whenever you're in a ditch. And it's just like, it's a really appealing concept, and that's why superhero movies work so well. It's because you're basically placing these like icons, these idols, these gods in like these normal worlds, and people just naturally look up to them. And Sonic has the personality for that. I mean, he's basically the video game version of Spider-Man, in my opinion. So it's really, really awesome to see Sonic in those games, because I really think that's the characteristic that Sonic really exudes, and that's the vibe that I get from seeing Sonic interact with humans and such in the world. But another example that I think really shows the potential of this is none other than the Sonic movie. And so I think the Sonic movie is probably a big reason as to why they want to take this direction. Although they probably were planning on the direction beforehand, I think the Sonic movie only solidified that, because that is a return to Sonic being in a more realistic environment as he goes to planet Earth and deals with all these humans and kids and such. And it really does kind of show off that appeal that I'm talking about, where you have Sonic, who's a fantastical creature, being placed in a world full of normal humans and beings and all that. And I don't know, I just think that that movie was so successful in like attracting a new audience of like younger fans that think, wow, Sonic is so cool. If he was real, then I would look up to him all the time and like root for him all the way to victory. And so I just think that's why Sonic can really fit into this kind of world, because Sonic has a personality to like really, play a crowd up and like really get people talking about him and interested in what he's doing in a way that like a lot of platforming icons can't. Because if you think about it, most platforming icons are a little bit empty in terms of personality. Like they just don't have a lot going on in terms of like what they say and all that. I think that's just the norm when it comes to platformers. But Sonic was different because he came rushing in with a personality that was as big as the world, and he was able to distinguish himself from all other platformers due to that. And so that's another reason why I think Sonic was able to work so well in this world and was able to gain an audience whenever he's been in it. I mean, you can also talk about Sonic X, how that was debatably like a really good show in terms of like placing Sonic in a world that makes sense and fits him well. And so I obviously haven't seen the game, so I can't say whether or not I agree with this guy in saying that like Sonic doesn't fit in this world, but I think when I do see it, I will give it a chance, because I do think there's a lot of potential in placing Sonic in a more realistic world, as I think he's a character that it really does work for. Not saying that like the fantastical environment doesn't work either. I think Sonic still has a place in like going to places like Green Hill Zone, Marble Garden Zone, Sky Sanctuary Zone. Those are still really great places for him, and definitely I want to see games take place in more fantastical environments as well. But I think Rangers, it being the kind of game that it looks like it's becoming, it does make sense for the world to be a little bit more realistic, just because it's such a huge world. It's going to be a little bit easier development wise to hone in on a certain theme, and I just think that like having all these different locations and such is something that could be really, really tough to like fit into this world, and making sure it all like flows seamlessly. And so I think they're trying to stick to a consistent theme with this game, in making sure that like it is all fitting into one world that Sonic can travel throughout. So I think that's also smart on their end. And so I know not everyone is a big fan of like the supposedly edgy and dark tone of Sonic games, but I think it's about time to see Sonic make a bit of a change. And I do mean like a full-on change, not like Forces that kind of like half-assed it. A full-on change that actually makes sense for the franchise, and you're not just trying to like please a little bit of everyone, because I feel like that's what Forces did, is that it tried to please everyone, and as a result it pleased no one. And so if they're going to go with this theme, I hope they stick to it. I hope that they're dedicated to it, and I do hope that it's reminiscent of the good qualities of the adventure games, and even though 6, because even though 6 had some good qualities, I think that there was still some good interactions with the community and such in that game, and it was still cool to see Sonic run through places like Kingdom Valley, Crisis City, and all that. Those are environments you wouldn't see in a game like Sonic Colors or Sonic Generations. Well, actually, Sonic Generations does have Crisis City, so scratch that, but it's something that you wouldn't see in like Lost World. There we go, Lost World is another game I could have mentioned. But anyway, that's pretty much everything I had to say about this. I thought it was an interesting topic to bring up, because it's like, well, Sonic has always had a debate of whether or not he should be more cartoony and more kid-friendly, or should he be more serious and be more realistic. I honestly think that one of the benefits of Sonic is that he is diverse, and as long as it doesn't impact the gameplay, he can be in so many different places, because he's had so many iterations that worked in both kinds of environments. And so why not play to both? It only makes the games seem more fresh, makes them seem more diverse, and makes them seem like they're all their own unique experiences. And so I'm really excited to see Rangers tackle this, and I'm interested in seeing how it turns out. Now, I do hope they take their time on it, and I do hope it's not a cringy mess like Forces try to be. So, yeah, we'll just have to see. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you like the direction that this game seems to be going in? Or do you wish they would take a direction more similar to games like Colors and Generations and Lost World? Let me know why not in the comment section. I'd be really interested in hearing your thoughts. And I just want to say thank you all so much. Let me know what else you want me to talk about when it comes to Rangers, because there's a lot more in this video. I just really want to focus on this topic for now, but I'm certainly open to talk about other things as well. Like, I think some of the gameplay mechanics sound very interesting as well, such as the punches and kicks. That sounds really weird, but I'm really interested in seeing how that turns out. Yeah, thank you for tuning in. All right, this is Riders, riding out. Thank you so much for watching this video. Special shout out to my patrons, New Gamer Hub, Team Rattle Sign Gamer, Johnny Hinton Ortiz, Trash Q, Claw84. These are my patrons / YouTube members. If you'd like to become a patron or YouTube member and get access to a whole bunch of different perks, then please check out the links in the description box below. But alright, this is Riders, riding out.